Hello everybody, welcome to DHT Games, Comics, Theories, and more. Today we are going to be doing a top 10. Today's top 10 isn't going to be any specific order because I couldn't think of an order for a list like this. This list is going to be 10 things Sega got wrong in Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, this could be Sega of America, Sega Europe, Sega Japan. I'm counting them all as one. So let's go over 10 mistakes Sega made in Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, this first one comes directly from the US manual for Sonic the Hedgehog 1, and it's that they say Sonic's speed comes from his shoes. Yes, you hear that right. Let me read it directly from the manual. It's Sonic, the real cool hedgehog with the spiked haircut and the power sneakers that give him his super speed. See? They literally credit his shoes to him going fast. Now, I can understand why they made this mistake, because in the game you hit boxes with shoes on them to go faster. But if they would have just communicated better with Sega Japan, this mistake could have been avoided. It's only brought up in this one manual. But to think that some kids out there grew up thinking that Sonic was only fast because of his shoes. Now, number 9 comes from Sonic the Fighter, Sega fighting game. So, this one is them mislabeling Amy Rose as Rosie the Rascal. Now, I know Rosie would go on to be a character in the Archie comics, but she started off as just a little bit of a mistranslation in Sonic the Fighters. This won't be the last time Sega gets Amy Rose's name wrong on this list. Now, for those of us in the US, England, and Japan, we know that the character Sally Acorn isn't canon. Despite her name being placed everywhere and Sega keep messing it up, that will be in the list too. But in Australia, apparently Australia didn't get the memo, because she was quite canon in Australia. She wasn't in any of the main series games, but she was all over promotional art, especially Sega World in Australia. Like, I'm gonna show you some of the merchandise up here. It was insane. She had cups, she even had a statue outside with Sonic. Australians really considered this character to be canon because Sega just didn't tell anybody. This was before the internet, so nobody seemed to really care. This would only be a problem after the internet came around. Now, this one I even did a whole video on myself, and it's Sega getting Sonic's age wrong. Now, in the classic games, Sonic was 15. In the modern games, he was 15, but the thing that led me to assume that his age was wrong, besides the fact of him having a birthday, is that in a game called Sonic Jam, which is a compilation, they say Sonic is 16. I'm even showing you it now. So Sonic went from being 15 to 16, then being 15 again. Sega needs to just release Sonic's official age already and explain what happened with this little bit of a mess up. Number 6. Now, number 6 is in the US version of Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, and I think this only applies to the US one, because I asked my friends from the UK and they said this isn't on their box. But look on the back where it shows off some of the games, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is shown off, but it's labeled as Sonic the Hedgehog 2. How this one got by Sega will always amaze me, because Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 look nothing alike. They can't even label their own games correctly now. Now, in Sonic Adventure 2, the moon gets blown up. Then we see in Shadow the Hedgehog, the moon is back and fine. Now, they actually asked the game developers this at a convention, and they said that the moon is just turned around. If the moon did get blown in half, it would be knocked off its axis and it couldn't spin correctly, most likely. So this excuse doesn't make any sense. I prefer the story told in Sonic X where the moon was turned halfway into a robot so then it would spin normally again, because this explanation that Sega gave makes no sense, and it seems like they just forgot about the moon being blown up. Now, this mistake was made all the way back when Sonic was still just a concept, and it's that hedgehogs actually can swim. When they were researching hedgehogs, they thought that they couldn't swim, so that's why Sonic sinks in underwater levels, to think that if they would have just done a little bit more research, we wouldn't fear underwater levels like we do. But there was also some goggles shown off in the sprites that weren't used in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, hinting that Sonic could have been able to breathe underwater, but the drowning mechanic was added. Now, the developers of the game said that this was just going to be a physical appearance change and actually wasn't going to impact the game. But we can see in later games like Sonic Colors, Sonic can somewhat swim, so at least he's getting a little bit back to his Hedgehog roots. Now, this one's exclusive to the US again. If you're reading promotional articles for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 or Sonic and Knuckles, you may have noticed Knuckles had a Jamaican accent. Now, they assume this because he had long dreadlocks and because of the colors of his shoes. I don't know if Knuckles actually has a lot of Jamaican influences, but we can tell that when the adventure games come around, the accent thing wasn't implemented at all. And I can't even picture a Jamaican Knuckles. Seriously, you need to go online and read these. They're freaking hilarious. I would love to see a Jamaican Knuckles put into the games, but I'm glad that they decided to not go with this one. Now, number 2 is the Super Emeralds aren't canon. Now, you've heard me bring up the Super Emeralds and Hyperforms in my videos a lot. Well, it turns out that Sonic 3 and Knuckles isn't a canon game. Yeah, you heard me right. Sonic 3 is canon, Sonic and Knuckles is canon, but Sonic 3 and Knuckles and everything that happens in it is a what if. So, Hyper Sonic isn't canon, and the Super Emeralds aren't canon. I'm really wondering why Sega even gave us this stuff if it doesn't even apply to the storyline at all. Now, this one's a 2-for-1 mistake. It's that Amy was called Sally in Sonic CD, and Ricky was called Sally in Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, in the promotional art for Sonic the Hedgehog 1, a character called Ricky, one of Sonic's animal friends that he has to rescue, was labeled as being Sally. There's even some promotional toys out where Ricky was called Sally, but this wouldn't be the last time that a character was called Sally Acorn for no good reason. In the manual, the US manual for Sonic CD, it says that you have to rescue Princess Sally. When you play the game, it's Amy Rose. So I don't know how both of these happen in the US promotions for Sonic the Hedgehog, but we've seen now twice characters who have nothing to do with Sally Acorn being labeled as Sally Acorn. I don't know what Sega was doing in the 90s, but they just couldn't get a hold of their characters' names at all. So yeah, that was top 10 mistakes Sega made about Sonic the Hedgehog. So I hope you guys liked that list, and I hope you learned something new today. If you liked this video, you can like it. If you really like this video, you can share it. And if you want to see more content like this, then you can subscribe. I'm always working hard to make more original content, and I hope I see you guys around the comments section. Okay, bye.